Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's sports podcast. I'd just like to start by saying it's great to be back after suffering with COVID last week, and I'd like to thank everyone who sent me their best well wishes whilst I was feeling under the weather. Starting to feel back somewhat like normal now, so yeah, it's good to be feeling sort of like something like human again, really, after probably about 7 to 10 days feeling a bit ropey. So plenty to catch up on with. The only good thing about being ill at the time when I was ill is the fact that the international break was on, so didn't really miss too much of the important action. England obviously played a couple of friendlies, which were not really of much significance to be fair. They did win both games to beat Switzerland 2-1 and Ivory Coast 3-0. But the more important games were in the World Cup. We'll come on to that in a little while, but we'll start as we often do by talking about the Premier League, which returns this weekend, and basically battle resumes between Manchester City and Liverpool at the top of the table. And we get to see Liverpool in action on TV this weekend. They're at home to Watford. That's the 12:30 game on BT this weekend. Something that Liverpool fans would expect. A game that Liverpool fans would expect to win, no doubt. What it would be a shock if Watford managed to get anything out of the trip to Anfield. But Man City will be hoping to slip up. Manchester City themselves are away to Burnley on Saturday afternoon at 3 p.m. That could be a tough one for them. Burnley obviously are desperate for points to try and get away from the bottom, and they've got another big game coming up for that, which I'll come on to in a moment. But yeah, Man City will be hoping they can capitalise on some kind of slip up from Liverpool so they can pull away at the top. But the likelihood is here that probably both teams will win, but we'll see what, because nothing can be taken for granted at this level, and especially after an international break when the players have been travelling all over the world. So interesting to see what the outcome is of that actually. Also on Saturday, tea time, we've got Manchester United at home to Leicester. That's the other TV game on Saturday. We've got two games on TV on Sunday. We've got West Ham against Everton again. An important game for Everton in terms of getting away from the bottom of the table, but West Ham also looking for that top four finish, as well as Manchester United. And Tottenham, who are featured in the 4:30 game on Sunday on Sky. That's Tottenham against Newcastle at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And then the final live game of the weekend, as such, is Monday night's game between Crystal Palace and Arsenal. The other team are really fighting for the top four spot. So plenty of competitive games this weekend. Another important game is also on Sky. That's Tuesday evening. Not Tuesday, Wednesday evening, and that's Burnley against Everton at Turf Moor. Obviously, both teams are desperate for points there, and depending on the outcome of the weekend matches that they're going through, we'll have to see how much more desperate Burnley are, or whether they can actually reel Everton in and bring them right into the fight. I think, to be fair, because Leeds have picked their form up a little bit, and they've got Southampton at home of Leeds on Saturday afternoon, they might be feeling not quite safe, but not much danger as probably as Everton are and Burnley. So they're going to be struggling to stay up, along with obviously Norwich and Watford. Watford aren't out of it yet, but like I said, they've got a tough game this weekend at Liverpool, so it'll be interesting to see exactly what pans out this weekend in those games. So obviously we'll update you on those next week. With regards to the Champions League also returns next week, and we've got the quarter-final matches starting on Tuesday. The first two matches Tuesday night, we've got Benfica against Liverpool, and we've got Manchester City against Atletico Madrid. And on the Wednesday night, we've got Chelsea have got their quarter-final game. They're playing Real Madrid. They're at home at Stamford Bridge. And Villarreal take on Bayern Munich in the other quarter-final. It's a shame, because Halifax are playing Tuesday night against Solihull. And I was sort of hoping that Chelsea would be on Tuesday night and the Manchester City and Liverpool games would be Wednesday, because they're the two teams I prefer to watch. But that's just an unfortunate clash, and the way the cookie crumbles with the town games at the moment, especially the home matches that have been rearranged, coming in clumps of three at a time, which is not ideal really, not for myself or for the fans who can't afford to go, but 3 games in a week. But anyway, we'll come on to that in a second as well. So that's where we are in terms of the Premier League, and we've also, to regards to the Champions League, we've also got FC Halifax Town had a bit of a wobble recently, and they're hoping to get back on track this weekend. They've got Wealdstone at home on Saturday afternoon after 2 successive defeats, unfortunately. The TV game against Wrexham ended up in a 3-1 defeat, and then last Saturday, somewhat disappointing 2-0 defeat at Kingsley in a game I think most Town fans would have expected to win. This happens every season. All teams have these games where they lose games, but they probably would expect to win. But it just shows you can't take anything for granted at any level of football, really. So that was disappointing, 2-0 defeat. But it leaves Town in 4th place at the moment, Stockport are well clear at the top now, 11 points clear of second place Wrexham, and Chesterfield have got 67. The Halifax have got 66. Solihull are 2 points behind, and Town take on Solihull in the next game after Wealdstone on Saturday at home. They've got Solihull at 7:45 on Tuesday evening at the Shea, followed by a game against Woking a week on Saturday. So, tight race still for the top of the table. Looks like Stockport are going to win the title. The battle for second and third still on. Town still have 2 games in on Chesterfield and are only a point behind. So a good run of results this week in the 3 home games should put them back in a decent position, and still certainly in the fight for second and third place. It'd be nice to get that second or third place, because it means they get a bye in the first round of the playoff games. And with them being one-off matches, it makes it slightly less, shall we say, treacherous for us on the road to get to Wembley. So we'll see how this all pans out. As well as Town's game on Saturday, other tough games. Chesterfield are at home to Grimsby, and Southend have got home to Notts County. So they're both interesting games on Saturday in the National League. And then obviously I've already mentioned that they're at home at Town on Tuesday night to Solihull, and that'll be a very tough match for us. They quite clearly are a threat to our position in the table. So, and they've always been a bit of a tough opponent for us anyway at the best of times. So hopefully we can get through that one okay. Also on Tuesday evening we've got Wrexham against Barnet, so Wrexham should come through that. But having said that, after an amazing 6-5 victory last Saturday against Dover, after being 2 up then 5-2 down and winning 6-5 with 2 goals in added time, you never know what to expect with this game. Maybe Barnet will give them a throw a spanner in the works as well. Also on Tuesday evening, Boreham Wood are away to Dagenham Redbridge. That's the highlight game, but got to say, Boreham Wood's form's dropped off markedly over the last few weeks, and it seems to coincide with their FA Cup run. Maybe it's taken something out of them. I also need to mention that on Saturday this week, Wrexham and Stockport aren't playing the league because they're playing each other in the semi-final of the FA Trophy. That'll be an interesting clash to see who's going to get to Wembley. And the other semi-finals between Bromley and York. So I think most of the Northern fans will want to see York get through that one. So Wrexham or Stockport against York would be a good final, I guess, and be lots of fans there. It's good, be a good advert for the non-league game, I would say. So let's fingers crossed they're the teams that get through to the finals. Moving away from the domestic stuff now and to the international scene. I've already mentioned the FIFA World Cup. The friendly games that England played, but obviously they were friendlies. But the draw for the World Cup actually takes place at 5 o'clock today, and this evening, should I say, 5 o'clock at tea time today. And basically, England in pot 1 with Brazil, Belgium, France, Argentina, Spain, Portugal, and the host Qatar, which I think is ridiculous because it shouldn't be in pot 1. There's still three places to be had in the World Cup. One of those will come from Wales, Scotland and Ukraine. Wales won their playoff semi-final against Austria, and now they wait the winners of the Scotland-Ukraine playoff tie, which will be played in June. So both of those games, all those games should I say, will be played to a conclusion in June, depending on the situation in Ukraine and the war with Russia, which unfortunately carries on at the moment. The other games are an intercontinental playoff between Costa Rica will play New Zealand for a place in the World Cup, and Peru in the playoff spot from the South American group will play the winners of United Arab Emirates and Australia. Those games are also going to be played in June, so we'll know in June at full draw. All the teams that come out of those games will go into pot 4 alongside Ghana, Saudi Arabia, Ecuador, Canada and Cameroon. Pot 2, Mexico, Netherlands, Denmark, Germany, Uruguay, Switzerland, USA, Croatia. So some good teams in there. Pot 3, Senegal, Iran, Japan, Morocco, Serbia, Poland, South Korea, Tunisia. So I'm guessing you'll probably all have a preferred route for England or preferred draw. If you want to make your comments on what you think would be a preferred draw for England, you can put them in the comments below. Feel free to do that either on Facebook, Twitter or on the YouTube page. Okay, so that's where we are with the World Cup. So we'll move on from football now. We're going to talk about cricket. It's an interesting period in cricket. It is for England anyway. We'll start with England women actually, because they've actually reached the Women's World Cup final. They are the defending champions, and after 3 defeats in the first 3 games, it looked like they were going to get eliminated, but they've not managed to roll off 5 wins in a row. including a superb semi-final victory. ELA was a Thursday morning over South Africa, beating by over 100 runs, and it featured 129 runs scored by Danny Wyatt, and also Sophie Eccleston taking a 6 for 36 haul to help England to play Australia in the final. Australia have cruised for the competition really. They won their semi-final comfortably as well. They scored 305 for 3 in their semi-final. I think they century in that game for Alyssa Healy, and they bowled the West Indies out for 148. The surprise exit for India and New Zealand to some degree as well in the group stages. You'd have fancied probably one of those two to get through at the expense of West Indies, but Australia haven't really been pushed at all in any game, apart from the very first game when they beat England by 12 runs. So Sunday's final could be really, really close and exciting. Hopefully England will defend the title. The Australians had a bit of a wood over us recently, but hopefully this will change on Sunday and England can retain the title, like I say. So in terms of the men's team, well, the Test series in the West Indies were going reasonably well till the last Test when England basically just crumbled and they got absolutely battered. They lost by 10 wickets. I think West Indies had 28 runs to knock off to get to victory after two really poor batting shows by England. Even Joe Root, the captain, failed to score many runs. I think he's got 0 and 5, something like that. He didn't do very well. In the first innings, they managed to get past 200, thanks mainly to a 90-run stand at the end between Jack Leach and Saqib Mahmood. I've got to say Mahmood's probably been one of the few bright spots out of this tour so far. There were some other signs of green shoots. Zach Crawley's had a good score, but then he just gives his wicket away by playing these flashing, stupid drives outside his off stump and giving his wicket away really easily. So he needs to learn or he needs to get dropped effectively. But the team obviously are lacking a bit of confidence. They've won one Test out of 17, I think, and they've lost possibly the last 5 series. I'm not sure if that includes the series that are looking like they're going to lose against India, where they played a concluding Test in the summer to make up for the one that missed out last summer. But there's a lot of pressure on Joe Root at the moment to stand down. I'm not really sure what to make of it because his form's not been affected by the captaincy, but his captaincy is questionable. But who is it to replace him? The only real candidates are Ben Stokes, but will he want the captaincy after the issues he's had mental health wise recently and a lot of pressure he's felt in the last 12 to 18 months, maybe a bit more? And you've got Stuart Broad, who could possibly make a captain, but he wasn't even in the squad for this, and he's not even in a team at the moment. And that's another decision which would confuse many people. The omission of Broad and Anderson, it would have made sense to have taken at least one of them on this tour, but we'll see how things shape up for the summer and what changes are made to the squad and whether the captaincy changes hands. So keep your eyes on what goes on there. Also in the world of cricket, I watched quite a bit of the Shane Warne memorial service, which is a very sad occasion, Wednesday morning in Melbourne. It showed how popular it was with the number of people that turned up, and obviously people who were respected within the game and in the world of entertainment as well. People like Ed Sheeran, Elton John, Robbie Williams and Chris Martin all playing live for him. And then you had people like Danny Minogue, Kylie Minogue there, Hugh Jackman. And obviously they had people from the world of cricket, important people such as that have been greats of the game, such as Lara and Tendulkar and even Nasser Hussain. But yeah, it was great to see such a good turnout and how well respected he was, and he'll be sadly missed, Will Warney. The bit that got me was the interviews with his children, or when they spoke, and it was really sort of like it made you realise what's happened. I think it brought it home to a lot of people. What a sad loss it will be. So anyway, rest in peace, Warney. Just one other thing on cricket before we move on. It's just over 2 weeks now to the start of Halifax Cricket League season. Let's hope the weather improves. I know I've seen pictures of the grounds being looked after. They've been going well, making sure they're in good conditions for those opening games. But the weather this week with the cold, the ice, the snow and the rain won't have helped much. But hopefully it won't set the teams back too much, and they'll all be ready to go on that Saturday 16th for Easter Saturday. So good luck to all teams there. And I'll keep you updated with any other news I get through from the league or from the clubs that I follow closely, such as Sorby Bridge and Bradshaw. Okay. Right, moving away from cricket now, we'll talk about rugby league, and the Super League continues. Wigan are at the top of the table after tonight's victory. Or should I say last night's victory? Can't even get my days in confused now. It must be the illness that's it. Wigan beat Hull FC with a drop goal in the 78th minute to beat them 19-18. It puts them to the top of the table, 12 points, ahead of St Helens and Catalans, who are on 10. Huddersfield play Catalans Friday evening 7:45. And we've also got Castleford, Toulouse, Hull KR and Warrington, and Leeds against St Helens. That's a Sky game. And in Championship, Leah played Dewsbury as well on Friday night. Halifax Panthers had a win on Sunday. It's good they caught up the game they missed at Workington. They beat them by 42 points to 6 up at Workington there. So that's a really good result, and they're hoping to build on that this Sunday by beating Whitehaven at the Shea. They try and claw their way up the table. I think they're 10th at the moment, so it's not looking too good the table-wise, but a couple of good victories might get the confidence up, and hopefully they'll lift them up the table. So like I say, Whitehaven won't be easy, but they should be confident of beating them at home. Also on Sunday we've got Barrow against Batley, Workington play York at home, Featherstone play Sheffield Eagles, and London Broncos take on the Bradford Bulls. So that's the fixtures coming up in the Championship this weekend. So that's where we are with Rugby League. Just like to mention at this point as well, because obviously with illness and missing a week out, congratulations to France in terms of Rugby Union winning the Six Nations, winning the Grand Slam. They were convincing winners. They had to win the last game against England. They beat them comfortably, 25-13 I believe it was. And now we've got questions being asked also about the future of Eddie Jones as the coach of England, whether he's going to stay on, whether he's actually going to be the coach at the World Cup next year, and whether he'll have somebody sitting alongside him who's going to be taking over the role from him, because I believe his contract's up at the time when the World Cup is due to take place, or after the World Cup. So let's see how that pans out. We're going to have a new coach at some point soon, so yeah, that's where we are with Rugby League and Rugby Union. Elsewhere, in Speedway and Stock Cars, we'll start with Stock Cars. The Stock Car season's underway. We had two warm-up meetings basically. One at Kings Lynn, one at Bradford this last Saturday. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend, which I would have normally been able to gone to. But Ryan Harrison's won both of those meetings so far. But the season starts in earnest this Sunday with the first World Championship qualifying round, 1 p.m. Hensford Hills. 34 cars booked so far from what I've seen, including world champion Tom Harris, Frankie Wayman Jr., Paul Harrison making his bow for the season as well. You'll see other stars such as Charlie Sauder. The girls will be racing as well. Catherine Harris is taking part, so should be a good meeting. And then we've got a double header the following weekend. We've got Mildenhall and Northampton. They're both qualifiers. Saturday the 9th at 5 p.m. at Mildenhall, and then Sunday the 10th at 12 p.m. at Northampton. So two meetings there. In the world of Speedway, we've had a couple of League Cup meetings. Sheffield won at Bellevue on Monday, 46-44, with a 5-1 in the last heat from Jack Holder and Adam Ellis over Brady Kurtz and Charles Wright. But that's the only really meaningful meeting I've seen. But the Championship starts this weekend, and there is now a streaming service. I think it's £17 per month or something like that, £17.99 per month, and you'll get at least 5 meetings per month. I think it's 30 over the season, and the first meeting to be streamed will be Berwick against Birmingham on Saturday evening, and that's the first, I think, Championship meeting of the season. There's also Leicester against Scunthorpe on Saturday evening. That's a Championship match. But in the upper division, the Premiership, we've got the League Cup first of all. Like I said, I've already mentioned that match at Bellevue against Sheffield. Well, Sheffield travelled to Wolverhampton on Monday, and then in the southern section also we've got Peterborough against Ipswich. There was supposed to be a match between Ipswich and Peterborough tonight, but that's called off because there was a picture from the Foxhall showing it was covered in snow, so that's why that was called off. And then next Thursday we've got Sheffield against Bellevue, the return match at Owlerton, and we've also got Kings Lynn at home to Ipswich at the Adrian Flux Arena. So it's started to pick up a bit in the next week as a Speedway, but there's not really any serious action so far. We had the Peter Craig Memorial Trophy at Bellevue, which also unfortunately had to miss, but Michael Palmtop was a prize victor in that. The racing seems to be very good, so it all bodes well for the season. Bellevue have actually signed Jake Allen as their last member of the team for this season on a temporary basis until they can get a long-term signing. I'm not sure he's the answer, to be honest with you, to the problems that they're going to have. They'll feel that perhaps they're a bit unlucky on Monday, but he only scored 2, which is not good enough really for somebody riding in a heat leader position. But he's been brought in to do a specific job, and maybe he'll improve over the next few weeks. But we'll see how it goes in that respect. So that's where we are in terms of the Speedway and the stock cars. Before I'm going to move on now is to talk about the darts. And this evening in the darts in Birmingham, we saw Michael Van Gerwen disappointing go out in the first round. He lost in his first match to James Wade, 6 legs to 2, and basically it was a case of the top players struggling a little bit because Gerwyn Price has had a fractured hand and he played but he's struggling. He got knocked out by Joe Cullen in the first round. Peter Wright scraped past Gary Anderson in his quarter final, and Johnny Clayton beat Michael Smith. So it turned out in the end that Johnny Clayton actually beat James Wade in the final after overcoming Peter Wright in the semi-final. Clayton averaging 111 there in the final. It's first. It would have been James Wade's first victory of the season if he'd have won one of the weeks. He hasn't won it yet, but Johnny Clayton's already won one. He won in Liverpool, but he won 6-1 in the final this evening. So that's how we are at the moment with the darts. And Michael Van Gerwen is still at the top of the table, I believe now. So it's going well though. It's been exciting, to be fair, so far, and yeah, it's worth watching if you like darts. Make sure you tune in for the next round. Next round is next Thursday, I believe. I haven't looked at where the venue is, but yeah, that's what's going on with the darts. Okay, I think that's about all I want to cover for this week. So I hope you've enjoyed listening to what I've been waffling on about for the last, don't know how many minutes it's been, 20 minutes or so. So yeah, it's good to be back, and hopefully we'll see some exciting action in the Premier League and elsewhere in the world of sport this weekend. And I'll be back to report on it next weekend. So until then, wishing you all the best, and I'll see you then. So for now, it's goodbye for me.